changers. I talked to all types of folks out there today. I'm bringing to you, this is historic. So I have Tina Watkins. She is the fire chief in Petersburg. She is the first female fire chief in Petersburg, as well as the first fire chief in the state of Virginia. Is that correct?
As a female, yeah.
As a female. Okay, ma'am, welcome to the program. Welcome.
Thank you.
All righty. You had said you were touched by being a fireman. It's a fire person. Now I can't call it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Firefighter at the tender age of 8 years old.
8 years old.
What did it?
Well, as a child, back during that time, we had a small fire in my house. It was electrical. Back then, my father had purchased a brand new electric stove, and he kept smelling something burning, but he couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Back during that time, the salesman would come to your house that sold you the stove.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he told my father, Mr. Watkins, I want you to cut everything on as if you're using everything. My dad said, "What? I wouldn't do that." He said, "No, but we got to, find out where it's coming from." So when he cut on every button, every eye, the whole oven, it started arcing and it started smoking and the house got filled up. So called the fire department in, and I was just impressed with at that time, the customer service that they did. And we didn't have to tear up anything because it was just isolated. So I was influenced from then. But even at the age of 8, I told a neighbor I wanted to be a firefighter. And they told me I couldn't be one because it was a man's job. Well, of course, back then, women were limited in their careers. And I really didn't think about it much anymore, but my friends through school have always told me, I still continue to talk about I want to be a firefighter, just in conversation. I didn't go into firefighting until I was 30 years old.
And you then became the chief, and you started it, you went out there
30.
hustling. Okay, well, so had there ever been any female firefighters before you?
Oh yeah, it was when I came into the city of Richmond. There's a 10 years difference between me and the first woman that came into the fire service.
Okay.
And I always tell the story of when I went to take the physical agility test, but to qualify, I was one of 58 in a group of 5 that passed the written test to qualify for the physical abilities test.
So 5 out of 58 get to the physical part.
Right, pass that written test. So in taking the physical ability test, I was already a track runner when I came out of high school. So I still kept my running up. And I had conditioned for it anyway. So it's a thing that when you're competing against men, they have this thing about, my track coach used to always tell us, you start out fast in the box, and then you get down to your pace. So when I took off, when I got down to my pace, every guy that passed me had something to say while they were running because they didn't want to get beat. And it wasn't a competitive thing. You won a clock. So I got in, and I remember we turned out to be real good friends, but she told me, she said, you're happy now, but you're not going to remain happy in here. And I looked at her and I said, oh, I'm going to stay happy because I'm not going to let anybody walk on top of me or walk on top of my happiness. I said, because I'm going to be their first female officer. Because, she had been there 10 years and I was kind of confused. I mean, you had 10 years under your belt and you was still a firefighter. So from there, I studied and did everything I had to do and took the written test and scored high enough to compete, to go through the assessment process to be promoted to a lieutenant.
Okay, let me ask you. Okay, so when you go through the firefighter school, you make it, you're happy that day. You're happy that day.
You're happy.
When did it sink in that you might be able to do this thing in the long haul and get to higher heights?
from my first day in.
There was no question.
There's no question, because I came from a strong family line. My mother was an educator. My father worked for the post office. And my parents always supported us. There's 4 of us, and I'm the only girl. And I have 3 brothers.
Okay, so that's where that fight comes from.
So, well, probably competitive with